Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Tuesday. It's time once more for Pagan Problems. This week's we are talking about what's actually important. Because at a certain stage, it becomes obvious to every pagan that they will never be able to fit into their lifetime all the things they want to learn, all they wish to do, and everything they want to understand about their chosen spiritual path. There's just too much, and we're not going to be able to absorb it all. And this can be a difficult realization. Many pagans are very curious by nature and they prize learning about new things, which is an incredible virtue. So, the idea that you might have to narrow your scope and hone in and focus on a particular path to get some real serious benefits from it, or to focus or just work with a particular pantheon because they resonate with you more than the others, or commit to a certain style of practice, that's something that a lot of pagans absolutely recoil from. Now, of course, we should never stop seeking knowledge, meditating on it, and deciding if an idea or a practice has substance and meaning, and then how it might be applied in practical terms. However, none of us can do it all, and attempting to do so will drive us completely mad. It will be a source of frustration because we're trying to do something that isn't possible for any human being to do. So, deciding where we belong on the many branches of paganism can be especially difficult for the eclectics among us, partly because there is this idea that if someone defines their spiritual practice, that they'll be missing out. And no one wants to miss out on the good things in life. Others have it in their heads that, the wilder and more random, chaotic, and disjointed their practice is, that it automatically makes them more enlightened, open-minded, and virtuous. We've got to examine our motivations and ask ourselves why we're doing what we're doing and what concrete benefits we derive from it. Now, what I've concluded is that the pathway to simplification and focus comes from defining what's truly important to us, our values, core principles, and the reality of what our relationship with deity actually is. This isn't about idealized or impossible standards, it's about identifying constants. We've got to know ourselves to be able to do this. And this is why we can't just simply say, oh, well, I'm so into the herbs, I guess I'll just do herbal magic and that's going to totally be my thing. Or I'm going through a tough time, so I need to look inward and do healing, so I guess I'm just going to focus on healing work and stuff like that. Or you could be thinking, the myths of this pantheon have captured my imagination, so I guess those are just my gods now, and that's the direction I'm going. Thoughts of this kind and decisions of this kind, these are not identifying values. They are describing interests, momentary needs. They could end up being quite temporary. It happens. And it's easy to latch onto a field of study or a mode of practice to avoid dealing with the real questions, such as, who are you? What do you want? What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of spirituality? What do you truly believe? These are not mere abstractions. These are not questions to be asked only as a luxury or as an intellectual exercise and you're bored and you have nothing else to do. These are necessary. And without tackling these questions and being unafraid to revisit them and to test our answers in reality through words and deeds to see if what we have stumbled onto something solid, if we aren't willing to do that, we become spiritually lost. These larger issues, the big questions, they are the reason for religion. And we can't seek out answers for these questions from other sources, whether it be politics, social causes, professional pursuits. We can't even find them in community, family, or romantic relationships. And we can't evade them by never looking beyond our interest or our needs of a particular moment. If we can't focus on our practice, there's a strong possibility that we haven't wrestled with these deeper issues. And this brings back the initial question. What is important? And how can we begin to discover so that we may have a fruitful exploration of the questions mentioned just a moment ago? And I think the answer in those things lies in what is eternal, recognizing the operation of nature and understanding where we stand in the midst of all of that. Paganism in its myriad forms is all about the cycles of nature and fitting into that scheme of things. Wicca in particular, through the Sabbats of the Wheel of the Year, illustrates that never-ending cycle of creation, destruction, renewal. That pattern is ongoing and never-ending. Even if and when our sun were to collapse into a black hole and sucks the rest of our solar system into this cataclysmic process of destruction, at the other end of that is a white hole. It's spitting out the energy and the raw materials, and the process of creation begins again. So, too, in an individual's life, can we see the process of creation, destruction, renewal occur over and over again. And even upon the death of the body, we understand that the destruction of the flesh is a necessary step for the renewal of the spirit, which eventually leads into physical rebirth. One of the most significant laws of nature, in my opinion, is the relationship between cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. This is inevitable and inescapable truth. And yet we live in a society that seeks to deny it at every single turn. You destroy the relationship of cause and effect in someone's mind, and you have destroyed their capacity to recognize and acknowledge objective reality. You will have destroyed the person themselves, and if enough people experience this, you will have destroyed an entire civilization. By contrast, choosing to embrace reality and the consequences of actions, pleasant or unpleasant, this realigns an individual with a higher and an eternal truth. Also, humanity is one of those rare creatures who is simultaneously just but a speck of dust in the universe and a giant in their own right. Where we fit into the larger scheme of things depends upon perspective, the situation at hand, and how we choose to live our lives. Our smallness makes these moments when we are able to achieve greatness all the more worthwhile because it is absolutely transcendent. Yet, even the most impactful of our deeds and the strongest of moral characters, there's still room for humility and a need for humility because we are a thread within the tapestry, that speck of dust in the universe, not the tapestry itself, not the universe itself. Now, I'm presenting these three ideas as a starting point for contemplation because they are the bedrock over which the foundation of spirituality is laid. If we understand these things, then we can revisit the questions of who we are, what do we want, what's the meaning of life, what's the purpose of spirituality, and what do we truly believe. Because we will finally be focused on what matters, not only on the larger scale, but also for ourselves on the individual level. The issue of what pantheons we're truly connecting with, what living a pagan life means to us, and what our magical practices consist of becomes less daunting at this point. The urge to try, to learn, and to do everything subsides, because we don't need to do that to be spiritually fulfilled or to find meaning. That's because we'll also understand that we can collect all the pagan knowledge and lore in the world, have an overflowing library, and more notebooks with scribbles than we will ever refer back to, and none of it will benefit us in the slightest if that information doesn't enable us to form a genuine bond with the gods, it doesn't help us understand our purpose, or make us better able to wield magic and use that creative energy. Now, as far as I know, we don't get extra points for pursuing knowledge if that pursuit is more about our vanity than it is of anything of real substance. Asking ourselves, how did what I just learned actually help me become a human being, is a vital question to ask. Have we gleaned genuine insight from our studies, or have we just been regurgitating what other people have written or said? If we don't like or we're unsatisfied with how we answer those questions, then it's time for a rethink. We are constantly choosing whether or not our spirituality has the depth of the ocean or if it's as shallow as the foam on the edge of a wave. No one can do this work for us. What we get out of paganism is a direct reflection of what we have put into it. And I hope my pagan brothers and sisters are choosing to focus on what matters most and just allow the rest of it to fall naturally into place. At the very least, once we do begin looking at the bigger picture and asking the fundamental questions, it becomes obvious that spoon-fed spirituality and failing to mentally engage with pagan ideas just doesn't cut it. That approach does not give people what they need from spiritual pursuits. And the same can be said of a more erratic spirituality that seems to be more about collecting as many things labeled pagan as possible without forming an idea of how those things may or may not fit together, without any kind of integration, without settling down and becoming spiritually mature. Wherever you're at in your own journey, I hope this video has encouraged you to define and pursue what's important for your own spirituality. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot to be gained. So don't be daunted. Take on the challenge and enjoy the rewards that follow. So now it's your turn. I would love to hear your thoughts about this and your reaction to the general argument So please let me know what you think in the comments below, or you can come see us at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There is a link to join in the description box, so just click on it. It'll take you right to us. And in the meantime, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.